You have found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls, and today we're surprisingly not just talking about Bulls getting a 3-game win streak. Right before we went live, we got word that Zach LaVine will now miss 3 to 4 weeks with his injury and be sitting out that amount of time. Does that mean that a trade has already been agreed on or is imminent? We're going to talk about that, plus the situation with Alex Caruso and his injury during the game. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze, and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Pat, with that said, literally right before we went live, we got breaking news from the Chicago Bulls app going down today is that Zach LaVine will now miss an additional 3 to 4 weeks with injury as he looks to have his right foot looked at again. Now, we've been around this a long time. This, to me, signifies a couple of things, not just necessarily because the Bulls are now on a win streak, but this tells me that the Bulls are now either have a deal in place for Zach LaVine, possibly. Again, this is not reporting, this is speculation. Or they just are settled on, they don't want to risk Zach LaVine getting hurt before they're able to get a deal locked in. But this now puts Zach LaVine out until after Christmas or New Year's. And we all know that is when things open up to be moved. Pat, do you think we have now officially seen Zach LaVine play his last game in a Chicago Bulls jersey?
Yeah, 100%. I do think that this is I think that this is posturing, right? I don't know if there's a deal already lined up. I would like to think that there is one, right? Because that would be the logical thing for you to do. But I do think that this is, we want to see, we don't want to stunt what's happening here. I get it. It's 3 games. It's nothing crazy, right? Like you had 2 really good games. I'm not going to lie. The New Orleans game, the Bucks game, they were both really good games. This game to me is, you beat Charlotte. Okay, you beat Charlotte, kind of played a poor version of the game that you played, but you've now seen 3 games in a row where this team has showed, as Stacey King would say, heart, hustle, and muscle, continued fight till the end. You saw the Chicago Bulls in the fourth quarter have a fourth quarter that I think more times than not kind of would get them in a bad situation, right? Where you got outscored 36-28. That's usually a death sentence to this team, but instead you see them come out and play really well throughout most of the game. Fourth quarter doesn't matter as much. It's fine. We survived the game. I think the fact that you've seen that tells you that there's something here that AK wants to develop. There's something here that AK wants to see more of, and that he, at least in his mind and in my mind here, he feels that Zach LaVine being on the floor hinders that. Zach LaVine being on the floor takes away from that. Now, could this be a real thing where Zach LaVine really is out 3 to 4 weeks? It could be. I'm not saying it can't. I'm not saying Zach LaVine's the type of guy to fake an injury, but I said this with the James Harden situation. Even though these are very different situations, Zach LaVine's been nothing but professional here. But sometimes your team has addition by subtraction, and at least through 3 games, you can't say that hasn't happened here with the Chicago Bulls. I think that you're spot on where you say, there's probably something that they already have in place, and they can't risk this guy hurting himself over the next 3 to 4 weeks, because this is right foot. It's still right foot soreness.
Yeah. It's not a contusion. Crazy. It's not a fracture. It's not it's literally right foot soreness. So now
they are saying they're adding inflammation as well on the official Chicago Bulls Twitter. I just saw that.
Yeah, I get that. The inflammation is probably because he tried to practice today and he just dribbled the ball off his foot again. I mean, like that's probably what the inflammation is. But no, all jokes aside, like you said, Zach LaVine, outside of like the thing recently on the court of him kind of, not really putting out the effort or whatever that was, he's been professional, and I don't have any ill will towards Zach LaVine at all.
Yeah.
I understand, like I've said many of times, Zach LaVine's frustration with where this Bulls team is, even frustration with himself and just wanting to win. I completely understand that. But this to me signifies that, hey, we now know we want to continue to look to see what this team is going to be. There's no point in bringing Zach back. We know he's not going to be here long term. So even if they don't have a deal in place, this just signifies to me that they understand Zach LaVine is done here with Chicago. There's no point in putting him back. Let them go through what they're going to go through. Let the guys continue to learn with having the amount of shots that they're going to have. And it's unfortunate that this is how it ends. I would have loved for Zach LaVine to have another big game in a Chicago Bulls uniform before he goes. I would love to have seen that. But at this point now, it is what it is. And we've now seen, and this puts the writing on the wall. Zach LaVine's time here is done. For those Bulls fans that were still keeping out hope on maybe they could find a way to pull it together, things like that.
I was still keeping out hope. I still wanted it. I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, but Zach is done. For all intents and purposes, now Zach LaVine's time with the Chicago Bulls is done. The likelihood of us seeing Zach LaVine suit up again for the Chicago Bulls is 0 to none.
Yeah, I don't have an argument for it, right? Because I think that, and I do think, right, because the conversation that Adrian Wojnarowski brought out about there being no trade market for Zach LaVine, this also lines up with him sitting now 3 to 4 weeks, because if there's no trade market for Zach LaVine, if he is sitting 3 to 4 weeks, right, which pretty much puts you, he comes back, right before that January deadline, that January 15th date, right, pretty much.
Yeah, basically.
If that is the situation you're in, then why would you put Zach LaVine out there if you already have a trade partner in place? That would lead to a trade market being dead as well. And guess what? This is not the first time we've seen this with AK, right? We've seen AK have situations where the trade is in place. The second that something can be done, AK makes the trade. Yeah. All the parameters are in place. The deal is ready to go. We saw that with the Lonzo Ball deal. I think that this is possibly something that is similar. Again, we're not reporting that. We're not saying that for a fact, but this could be something very similar where you're basically saying there's no chance that you're going to mess something up here. One, we've got players developing. Two, you don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. We've got pieces moving in the right direction. Let's accommodate both sides. You get paid for the next 4 weeks. That basically have a vacation. I wouldn't be surprised if we stop seeing Zach LaVine on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that either. And then they'll probably spin it as Zach LaVine's going back to L.A. for rehab. He's seeing his doctor, and he's just going to be sitting at home. It is what it is.
Now, listen, there's probably, let's be real. We all agree. There's some chicanery here.
For sure. Absolutely.
There's some chicanery here, right? I don't think Zach is really hurt. I don't think Zach wants to sit out either. I think this is the front office. Yeah, are we heading towards losing another pick, though? Because Zach LaVine is one of the players that technically has to play, even if you put him, right? Like, I mean? Like, they're going to investigate this.
Well, the thing is, though, is that as long as there's a legitimate, like, because it's a sprain. You can't
it's an injury, right? It's something he has.
You can't. There's only so much that you can do for that. So, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm sure that the Bulls have also done the research to make sure that this can't come back. But keep in mind, even that injury, it's national televised games. If I'm not mistaken, the Bulls have no nationally televised games. I think the only nationally televised game that we have is the day after Christmas, which technically is around the time that Zach could return. So
this is true. You're making good points. I listen. I'm very intrigued by this. You should have seen me and Haize before we went live, bro. Like, it was literally
we were in such a good mood before we went live, and then I get the alert on my phone, and Pat's like, "What? Because I'm like, "Oh crap! Oh crap! Oh crap!" And the fact that it came from the Chicago Bulls app was while I was just like, "Oh, this is legit."
The most to me, right? This is not Daniel Greenberg. This is not. I saw it from Underdog Sports. I thought it came from a second source.
The Bulls reported it before Woj reported it. They Woj bombed themselves. Woj just got a Bulls bomb. He was just like, wait a second, what?
Woj just got a Bulls bomb. Maybe the line of this podcast. I'm not gonna lie to you,
and it's so funny because Casey Johnson just had his mailbag today, and he was asked, do you think there's a chance that the Bulls sit out Zach? And he said no, because it's best for both parties for him to get back on the court. Before we get out of this segment, Pat, just right now, do you think that the Bulls have a deal in place now that they just can't solidify And so maybe that January 15th date, and that's why they went ahead, just don't worry about it? Or do you think it's more so of a thing that we don't want to risk Zach LaVine being hurt? The trade value is what it is at this point. We just don't want to risk that so we can get this thing done.
I don't think they can say the trade value is what it is because of the kicker. Right? Like, you're paying money for him to leave. You're paying a lot of money.
You're going to pay that regardless, though. Yeah.
You got to pay it regardless, right? But I think that, right, it can't be to me, you already have to have a deal you feel comfortable with in place.
Yeah.
Because if you have a deal you feel comfortable with in place, you're not worried about him getting back on the court. If you don't have a deal you feel comfortable with in place, I'm going to pay you an extra 15% to leave and go be somewhere else, and I get nothing back for it, right? But, to me, this signifies more of a deal, a deal that could already be in place that benefits the Bulls now. But to make this decision, you have to feel like it benefits the Bulls long-term as well, right? Because if not, you want Zach LaVine's trade value to be as high as possible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what it ends up being.
Yeah, we'll end up seeing. I mean, I think it's a lot going on with that, and we'll be here to break it down as any new developments come up. It's first time us breaking news as well here on Locked On Bulls.
Yeah, I don't remember us having breaking news, really.
I think the most thing that we had breaking news during the live stream once was somebody got injured during the game and they came out and was like, yeah, he's probably going to miss tomorrow. That's probably the most that we've had, closest thing to that. But next up, we're going to talk about the actual Bulls win, which we thought was going to be the league topic today. But before we get into that, got to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. If you're talking about that action, I wish you could bet on over-unders of games that Zach LaVine is going to play in the Bulls uniform. That's not one of the things.
You probably can on certain sites. That's a prop bet somewhere for sure.
Yeah, somewhere. But we're here to promote FanDuel. But they do have the two games tomorrow with the in-season tournament, the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Indiana Pacers and Pelicans versus Lakers. Winners of those two games do go on to the in-season championship. And right now, the New Orleans Pelicans are getting 1.5 points against the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Milwaukee Bucks are giving up 4.5 points against the Indiana Pacers. If you guys want a chance to win some money as well as see some pretty good basketball games, because I think those are going to be fun games, those are the games to look at. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Pat. Outside of the excitement now, whatever the situation is going to be with Zach LaVine, which is crazy.
The Bulls insanity right now.
Their third win in a row. Now, this was not a pretty win. This wasn't even a win in which they really executed as well as they had in the previous two games. Yep. This is an ugly win in many ways. The fourth quarter was a fourth quarter where the Bulls got outscored by 8. They still ended up winning the game by 11. They won every other quarter but that. Didn't shoot amazingly well. DeMar and Vooch both had over 20-point nights, but inefficient shooting, especially from DeMar going 8 of 20. Vooch a little bit less so, 8 of 17 from the field. But Coby White made some important plays down the stretch of this game. Yes. Pat, how you feeling about this win?
I mean, listen, I think you can see Nikola Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan being the guys that led the way, but I think that you can say that this win does not happen without Coby White making some of the plays that he made down the stretch. I think, even some of the plays he made defensively, you have to look at Coby White, and it speaks to his development. It speaks to a reason why the Bulls don't want to bring Zach LaVine back on the court at this point, right? Like, there's so many things that we saw tonight, and I thought that Coby White really did a good job of staying impactful in a game where he didn't have his best game.
Yeah.
Right, like there were stretches for Coby. I believe in the second half, he ended up shooting 3 for 8 overall, right? You didn't look at that second half for Coby White and say, man, this guy's out here dominating. But what you did look at was he's continuing to keep the pressure on. He's forcing them to play up defensively. They're worried about him knocking down deeper three-pointers than I think we've ever seen him knock down on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, you're opening up things in the lane. You saw things open up for Vooch down low. Vooch is kind of getting on my nerves a little bit. Mark Williams is a big dude, but I thought Vooch was playing a little soft early on.
But Mark Williams didn't play in this game.
Or not Mark Williams. Who was
Richards?
Richards,
Nick
yeah.
Richards, yeah.
I thought Richards was bodying him up a little bit, and he was irritating my soul.
Listen, Richards is 7 feet, 245 pounds. That's a strong fella.
listen, I need you to move him, Vooch. But then here's the thing. In the second half for me, when I saw Vooch get out there and going right, the footwork was on display. And there was a couple of plays. The one thing that I saw in this game that I did love was the fact that the Bulls created so many opportunities off of just good ball movement that found Vooch in a perfect position down low to make one or two moves, and he had an easy move at the bucket. Like that to me is something that you talk about. Yes, this is a bad game. This is not a great win. This is the Charlotte Hornets, right? Like, when's the last time Charlotte was relevant for anything? But those are plays and those are moments in the game that you can see and you say that works versus the Milwaukee Bucks. That works versus the Denver Nuggets. That works versus the Clippers. That works versus your top teams. I thought that was really good to see the team moving the basketball like that. And I think that's why you come out of this looking at the first three quarters and going, yeah, you can take the fourth quarter off. This might be, honestly, the first fourth quarter of the entire season that we've seen the Bulls get outscored. And we're not sitting here talking about, I can't believe we just lost this game.
Yeah. I mean, this could have easily went for one of those games where it's like, yeah, we got a 3-game win streak to, oh crap, we lost to the Hornets. Yeah. Like, it could have very well done. Hornets without LaMelo Ball at that. But listen, and we talked about this a little bit in the episode before the game, is that this was a Charlotte Hornets team though that could play into something. Like, you let Gordon Hayward go back to looking like it was 2015 out there. That's a little bit.
What leg snap?
This is a little bit concerning, but I'm glad. As I said over on Central, these are character building wins to me, because you want to see those wins that you can dig out that aren't necessarily the prettiest wins. Now, you also don't want to see yourself be in this situation a lot against a team like the Charlotte Hornets, but we're also a team like the Charlotte Hornets, so there's that part of it as well.
Well, and I think, right, like, you didn't allow everyone to go off. The one thing, listen, when Gordon Hayward was cooking, I was like, who's DeMar? Okay, I see where we're going here. Yeah, I mean, 27 points, Gordon Hayward, DeMar DeRozan on him. Makes sense. I'm not sitting here overly surprised by how Gordon Hayward played in this game. The thing was, you can't allow anybody else to get to that point where you're like, oh, snap. Now everybody is cooking. I thought that the job done on Mikal Bridges outside of that fourth quarter was a really good job. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They pretty much kept him under wraps for most of this game. And I'm sorry, Miles Bridges. I always get the Bridges mixed up. Miles Bridges, right? I thought that for most of this game, they kept him under wraps. And until you really saw him get going kind of in the end of third, going into that fourth quarter, right? Like, I forgot he was in the game at one point. Like, he came down in the second half and got a dunk, and I was like, oh, yeah, he is on the team. Like, I thought he was sitting tonight. That's how good of a job we saw him do. I thought P. Will tonight, he basically didn't exist offensively, but on the defensive end, he gave you some of the things that you really wanted to see. 2 steals, 2 blocks, 9 rebounds. Be that guy on a night in, night out basis, and we can find a role for you.
Yeah. Listen, P. Will in this game, like, didn't shoot the ball overly a lot. What, he's take 6 shots, I believe, in this game. 6
shots on the whole game, right? Like, maybe shoot the ball a little more. I'm not gonna lie.
Maybe shoot the ball a little bit more. But again, I mean, you got to look at it. He was on either Brandon Miller or Miles Bridges all game long. So
Brandon Miller was in hell.
Yeah, but listen. And for the things that he did outside of scoring, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 2 blocks, I'll take that, right? Yeah. We talked about before, like, if you're not going to take the shots, cool, but you still have to make your presence felt. And he did that tonight. Now, I would have liked to see it felt a little bit more, but again, ugly game overall. The Bulls shot 42% from the field, 48% from 3, though. Shout out to that happening. And so, sloppy game as well, 16 turnovers from the Bulls. So I'm glad the Bulls were able to get a win, because still, like I said, character-defining win, in my opinion. But there still are things that now I hope with the day in between games that they come in, because I tell you what, against a better coach team like the San Antonio Spurs, which finally moved Jeremy Sohan from the starting point guard role, this is probably a loss against a coach team like that. So,
hey, listen, it took Pop a little while. He getting older. He getting a little older. It took him a little while.
Listen, Pop just got to make sure that he's like, can I work my Pop magic? I got to give it a little bit more time. Okay, no, the Pop magic ain't working. Sit your butt down, fella. Sit it down. So,
hey, bro. Hey, Jeremy Sohan been looking bad. Outside of, like, Jeremy Sohan only looked good on the defensive end, and only sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough. That's a tough guy to have on your floor for you. But hey, we've been there. I mean, Paul Zipser.
Who we're high on?
You said who?
Who we're high on?
Who we're high on? Paul Zipser. Who we are high on? No, you're just high. That's all that is.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what you're high on. You're just high. Hey, before we get into this final topic, talking about AC, man, because listen, with Zach LaVine out for 3 weeks with that nagging injury, AC going out is going to be very interesting. Again, him playing tonight, me and Haize both talked about him possibly sitting the rest of this week because of the time that he was going to need. Will we finally get that? We'll see. But first, I do have to tell you guys all about PrizePicks. Listen, with the basketball season here, you can now pick a combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players in different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus timeouts awarded by Adam Silver at the end of the game. No, I'm sorry, receptions. If you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill or comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community. All you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy sports made easy.
All right, Pat. Last topic of the day. In this game, Alex Caruso took, I don't even know what to call it, but a leg injury. And they said in this, Stacey King talked about it, that he's going to feel it tomorrow. I went on to say that I would not be surprised if we don't see Alex Caruso Friday against the Spurs. Give him some time to sit out. Now, I don't know if the Zach LaVine injury news changes any of that or whatever. They want to keep looking at people. But I fully expect with how hard he got hit, that Alex Caruso it's probably starting to set in right about now. That adrenaline's probably starting to wear off. He's probably on the way back home like, hey, man, that hurts. But do you think Alex Caruso is going to miss? Do you think it's good? I expect the San Antonio Spurs game. I think he'll probably be back Monday against the Milwaukee Bucks. But how you feeling about that possible injury to Alex Caruso?
I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I don't know. Like, I thought that this would be the game that you would see AC miss some time with, right? I thought that this would be the game that you would be okay with allowing him to sit out of. But I think that AC's really taking on this role of, I'm a leader on this team. I'm not somebody that's going to sit out, and I want to show the toughness that we do have in this situation, right? So if you see that, to me, I think that you have to look at AC, and unless Billy Donovan tells him you can't go, AC's going to go. So I think that this might be a situation where maybe the coach says, hey, AC, listen, we appreciate you. We appreciate what you're giving us. We appreciate how you got the young guys fighting right now, but you're actually hurt. How about you have a seat for a couple of games? Especially knowing you got the Milwaukee Bucks coming up, right? If you're going to miss any game, this is the game to miss. We play the Bucks, Monday?
Monday, yeah.
Monday for the Bucks. And I'm going to be real with you. The Bucks, to me, it's a hard take. I don't know if I can say it. I don't know if I agree with this fully. No, yes, I do.
You don't know if you agree with your own take?
Hey, bro, because as I said it, like the level of it was crazy. Okay. I think that for AK, the Milwaukee Bucks is as big of a rivalry as the Bears and the Packers. Just for AK, because that's the first team he played in the playoffs. That's the one team that pretty much put this team on the outs. You literally saw the Bucks beat down the Chicago Bulls, right? Grayson Allen was still on that team, broke Caruso's thumb or wrist. What did he break on that? His wrist, I believe. Yeah. Like, it has not been a fun time playing against the Milwaukee Bucks for AK. And I think that the Bucks are the bane of his existence. So I think that there's a lot more emphasis put on you got to beat the Bucks than maybe there was when we grew up. They play them games harder too.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I can understand where you're coming from with that. I mean, I guess we'll see. Like, I at the end of the day, I think that AK, the Bulls are going to do whatever they truly feel is best for Alex Caruso. Bucks or not, whoever the team is in front of them. But when it comes down to it, I say this is that was nasty, and you gotta sit him to let him. Like you said, I was surprised he played, and I fully came in here expecting Alex Caruso to possibly go ahead and sit out the week.
Yeah,
so,
because
with only 2 games on the schedule.
Yeah. I was with you. I didn't expect him to continue to play. I thought that he was probably going to be done this week. But listen, it's a different NBA again, right? We're back to semi what we grew up with. And even though we may not think of Alex Caruso as one of these guys who can go out there and win the awards, Alex Caruso probably thinks of Alex Caruso as that. So he's going to tell you, guess what? I'm going out there and I'm playing more than 65 games. Has he missed a game yet this year?
Caruso, yeah. Caruso's missed a couple of games this year, remember? Io started for him.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. He probably wants to limit those as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Alex Caruso's playing out of his mind this year, shooting over 50% from the field, 47% from three. He's playing extremely well, but at the end of the day, you got to take care of your players, and so he's gonna miss some time. Just expect. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this game versus the Spurs isn't a game that we don't see multiple people sit.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, I mean, just like you guys have been banged up. You got a lot of games in a row here. We got a tough stretch coming up here.
Yeah.
We're going to give you guys a seat versus the Spurs and then go out there and do what you do versus and let the young guys play. Listen, every game I feel like Julian Phillips gives us one basket that we're like, oh, maybe he got it. Maybe, oh, there it is. There it is. 5 minutes. Never mind. Get him out of there.
Facts.
So.
All right, man. But speaking of getting out of here, let us get out of here, just like Zach LaVine is on his way out.
Hey, bro. All right, before we get out of here, did you see what Zion and B.I. was on after the game when they asked
yes,
them,
bro.
Hey, what are y'all spending the money on if y'all get it? They just went, I don't know, but it's going to be fun. Like, shout out to them young boys.
Zion said, you already know what type of time I'm on.
Hey, shout out to them young boys for good spit roast meal. Hey, follow us on Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Appreciate y'all for showing love.
You can follow me at CEO Haize, CEO Haize. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls. Locked On breaking news today for the first time.
Yeah.
You guys can make sure you guys stay locked in with us. You can subscribe to us on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. It's been Locked On Bulls, and we out, y'all. Peace.
You think they make it out of Vegas with the 500,000?
No.